What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're looking ahead to Game Week 22, double Game Week 22, and my first thoughts and team selection. Welcome back everyone. Game Week 21 drawing to a close. Of course, we've got one game to go on Monday night, Fulham versus Spurs. Let me know your score. Let me know how many points you are on. I'm recording just before halftime in the Arsenal versus Manchester United game. It is currently 1-1. I have Ben White in my team. He's already been booked and lost his clean sheet. But of course, I have Rashford, I have Martinelli, and I have Bukayo Saka. So hoping from something from my Arsenal guys going into the second half of this game. Today, what we're going to do is have a look ahead to Game Week 22. Of course, it is 2 weeks away. We have about 13 days until the next deadline, so we'll be having a look at my first transfer plans, what I'm potentially doing with my team going into that week. This is how my team currently lines up. I've got 2 free transfers and absolutely nothing in the bank. It's going to be a 3-5-2. I currently have 2 double game week players in Marcus Rashford and Luke Shaw as well. I got a lot of feedback over the past couple of videos that my captaincy looked like a triple captain button every single week. And given that a lot of people will consider playing their triple captaincy this week, I took this as an opportunity to change it. So hopefully it looks like the normal captaincy symbol. But anyway, 3-5-2. We've got, again, Shaw and Rashford in there. Ben White starting. Again, the nice run of fixtures for Arsenal and Manchester United do start now. And then, of course, Trippier in there. I did make the right decision. Thank you for everyone on my deadline stream that made me go with Kepa over Danny Ward this week. Did start him for his 9-pointer after benching him, of course, in Game Week 19 for that big return. In the midfield, we, of course, have Saka. We have Martinelli. Saka is 1 yellow card away from picking up a suspension. Now, if he gets in the second half of this Arsenal game, I've got players on my bench and I will just bench him. So that doesn't really make much of a difference to me. Of course, I'd rather he didn't get booked, but if he does, then I have options that I can just bench him for. Mahrez in there. Then, of course, I still have Mo Salah, and up front we have Haaland and Harry Kane. I'm about 90% sure I'm going to use both of my free transfers. So just before we dive into those potential transfers, it's really important now we start planning and we start having a look at the potential double game weeks and blank game weeks we have on the horizon. So the next sort of 3 that we've got is the double game week in Game Week 22, which was announced provisionally. So please be careful with making your early transfers. This only takes place if there is no draw for either Manchester United or Leeds in their FA Cup 4th round taking place next weekend. If either of those matches have a replay, that will need to take place in the midweek where this fixture of Manchester United Leeds has actually been added into. So there will not be a double game week. So rule number 1, hold your transfers if you're bringing in Manchester United and Leeds players until after the FA Cup 4th round next weekend, because that double game week could, in theory, be cancelled. Then, of course, we have the double game week in Game Week 23 between Manchester United and Arsenal with their other fixtures there of Aston Villa and Brentford as well. Then we have the blank game week in Game Week 25. So all of this now needs to be in your mind when you are considering what transfers to make. Either Manchester United versus Brentford or West Ham versus Nottingham Forest will be a blank, and either Newcastle versus Brighton or Leeds versus Southampton will also be a blank game week. So this is caused by the final of the EFL Cup. Again, the semi-finals take place between now and the Game Week 22 deadline. The 2 finalists, the 4 teams, of course, that we've got left are Manchester United playing against Nottingham Forest. Whoever wins will cause that blank game week. Then, of course, we have Newcastle playing against Southampton, and whoever wins that will cause that blank fixture. So again, we know that there's going to be a confirmation of either the double or no double in Game Week 22, depending on what happens in the FA Cup, and the blank game weeks in Game Week 25 will be confirmed before the Game Week 22 deadline. Please hold on to your transfers. This is probably the most important week not to make transfers of the entire season. It is 2 weeks. It's a long time to sit and look at your teams, but wait until closer to that deadline. There's a lot of information to be had. There's a lot of extra things that could potentially happen. Save your transfers until Game Week 22. So with that in mind, if the doubles do go ahead, so let's say Manchester United and Leeds do get the double, which is about a 70-75% chance given the odds of draws in those fixtures. I do think it will happen, but do just save your transfers. I am pretty sure about the transfers I am going to make. It is finally time. I get to sell Mo Salah. He's been such a disappointment for me, just being completely awful. That Liverpool attack have just not been good. Salah down is one of my free transfers to Bruno Fernandes. Of course, that Game Week 25 fixture I've currently put in black just because it might be a blank game week. So it's worth reminding yourself of that if you are looking to buy into those Manchester United options. But it is the double in game week 22 of Leeds at home and Crystal Palace at home as well. They then play Leeds away in game week 23 and Leicester at home in game week 24 if I decide to keep him. The other transfer that I'm pretty certain I'm going to do is Greenwood up to Gnonto. Gnonto looks like a really nice option at 5 million. I can use him again in game week 25 if Leeds don't blank. Of course, we saw on the previous screen, in theory, it is a fixture that could end up with a blank week because Southampton are still in the cup. So another reason why I need to wait on the cup results, all the cup results, before making my transfers. But that would be 2 free transfers. It would add 2 extra double game week players into my squad for game week 22. But it's worth bearing in mind what I would do with those players down the line, because you might be looking, Harry, yeah, you're bringing in Fernandes, but then he blanks in game week 25. What are your plans? Are you going to go and get Kevin De Bruyne? What are your plans going forward? So after that, if I do those 2 transfers, I'll be left with 1 transfer and 2.1 million in the bank, as you can see there. I then am considering a -4 going into game week 23 as well, the double game week for Manchester City. This would involve John Stones leaving my team after his 8-pointer here. I still think the triple up on Manchester City attack is the route I want to go. I like Stones as an option, but there are so many cheap defenders that are scoring consistent points, and I could always go to a Newcastle asset after game week 25 if they blank, if not in game week 25 if they do not have a blank game week. Stones down to Bueno, probably. Again, if Newcastle get knocked out of the cup, I could easily just go and add Dan Burn or Botman in there as my defender. If not, it's likely to be Bueno. He can sit on my bench. He has an okay fixture in game week 25 away at Fulham. I think that would probably be the move that I do. There are other defenders that I'm considering. And again, that would free up the money that I could do in order to do Fernandes up to De Bruyne. And it would also free up the Manchester City spot that I need. This would give me a triple up on Manchester City of Kevin De Bruyne, of Riyad Mahrez, and of Erling Haaland as well. So those are the sort of 4 transfers I'm predicting over the next couple of weeks. Fernandes would come in and straight out again in 1 week. Again, I could potentially just roll my transfer. I look at these and I think, are they really worth a -4? Because I could just play Fernandes against Leeds, not have Kevin De Bruyne, and just keep Stones in there. So I think the 2 transfers I'm going to do this week are pretty nailed on if the double does get announced. But then it's 50-50 about whether I think the -4 is really worth it going into double game week 23. So how would this line up? So this is my team now before making any transfers. If I did make those 2 free transfers, I would then line up like this. It does mean that I'll be putting Riyad Mahrez on my bench. Now, I could bench Harry Kane if I think Manchester City are going to do well. But I realistically, again, if Saka does pick up a yellow card in the second half, then this is all a moot point. And I would end up starting Mahrez over Saka, and that would be absolutely fine. But a 3-4-3 is what I'd probably line up with. Gnonto would come into my starting lineup over Mahrez. Fernandes would come in, of course, with my vice-captain, and Rashford would be my captain. The 2 big questions that we have left to discuss is A, who do I captain, having 3 Manchester United players? I think, again, given the goal that Manchester United have scored in the first half by Marcus Rashford, I think the captaincy does go on him. And I do think Rashford is likely to keep penalties. We saw in a couple of games in their sort of pre-return to the Premier League games that Rashford took them over Fernandes. So I do think he's likely to be on penalties, which is a boost there. The next question is, do I triple captain Marcus Rashford? I'm about 50-50 about whether I think it's going to be done. I did see something from Erling Haaland today, his hat-trick, that makes me want to wait and put it on Erling Haaland in a potential double game week. So I'm not 100% certain. It is a fantastic double game week, both at home, of course, for Manchester United, of Crystal Palace and Leeds. There's a great opportunity, I think. If you are considering it, absolutely do go for it. I just love holding my chips to the last sort of 10 game weeks in the season. I know Haaland has an okay chance of a double later in the season. I'm 50-50 on it at the moment. It's currently not going to be active. If the deadline was tomorrow, I probably wouldn't play it. So maybe it's 49 versus 51. That is how close we are to playing the triple captaincy on Marcus Rashford. So this is my current thought. Again, I'm not going to be making any transfers to February earliest, if not the very, very late game week 22 deadline on that Friday evening. 3-4-3 would be my plan, bringing in Bruno Fernandes and bringing in Gnonto. Again, like what they can do, and Gnonto looks great going into game week 25 where he has Southampton at home. Again, a lot of information to learn between now and the 22 deadline, so do hold your transfers. Let me know what you think about my team. Let me know what you think about my potential transfers. Any questions you have, drop it all in the comment section down below. If you have not liked the video already, we're going to try and hit 1,000 likes on the video. We're closing in on 43,000 subscribers as well. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.